What is up, guys? We are back. Your allies behind enemy lines, Ryan and Joey here. A couple of Washington football fans living thoroughly behind enemy lines in Dallas and in Austin, Texas, holding it down right now. Had a good, I guess, return or just a return. I guess there's no such thing as a re-return. We had a return last week after a brief hiatus of just living life, becoming dads, things like that, making moves in life. So now we're back, getting ready to start up. We're getting close to training camp season. Joy, say what's up to the people.
What's going on, guys? Back again here. Like he said, the re-return. I like the re-return. It's like it's like a rerun, a re-rerun. If you watch if you watch a rerun again, it's like a re-rerun. But anyway, it's good to be gack and back. And like I said, after making moves, we're ready to make some more moves.
Absolutely, heck yeah, we are. We're juiced. The Redskins made a few moves, or the team formerly known as the Redskins were making some moves pre-show last week, and right after we wrap up, right after we're done recording, the next day the announcement is made that we will actually be known as the Washington football team for the year 2020. They dropped some new unis, which I actually like, and they must have been listening. They must have listened to the show and then came up with the ideas, because they went just regular burgundy and gold with the plain helmets, and they put the number on the side. And it's funny. So when we were talking about it last week, I almost said, because I said, what if we just do the striped blank helmet? And you're like, yeah, like a Penn State look or Alabama look. And I almost said, if they put the number on the helmet, that'd be pretty cool too, because you don't see that in pro football. You only see it in college, and a lot of people were flaming it because of that. They said, oh, that's a college move, but I actually think it looks pretty clean, especially since they didn't just do white. They did the gold on the helmet. What are your thoughts on the new unis?
Well, I mean, they definitely are hot. They look fresh. A little different shade and a little zest in them. And like you said, putting the numbers on the helmet just tops it off to make them very unique. And I can promise you one thing that will never happen with having these numbers on the helmet. We will not have a Thurman Thomas incident from the Washington Redskins Super Bowl. For those who don't know, or don't remember, if you're too old, or too young, I should say. Thurman Thomas was out of the first play of the game in their Super Bowl against the Redskins because he could not find his helmet. And some people think that the replacement that was there, if he was in the play, he would have been able to make this play and score a touchdown there. So I've seen a documentary on that alone. So that will not happen to this Redskins. Yes, it will not go back. This will not happen to the Redskins or the Washington football team. We talked about how hard it was going to be. We talked about how hard it was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, even still, I'm going almost 30 years strong, 28 years strong, being a Washington football fan. You're, more than that. So it's going to be hard to wipe that from our memory. One thing, like you said, it does look clean. It looks crisp. I really like the fonting that they're using, the font of Washington football team. It looks real clean, real kind of modern. Definitely a change up from what we saw the Redskins lettering that used to be. But I definitely agree. It's crisp. It's new. It's really cool. So hopefully that this is a good sign that these are still going to be the colors moving forward, and they don't get away from the gold, because a lot of the makeups and stuff that's obviously just fan generated is the burgundy, but they get a little away from the gold and more so start incorporating white. I've seen gray. I said last week I did like a black, like this kind of, this color scheme right here of this hat that I'm wearing, how it's black with the maroon and the gold, something like that would be super dope. But yeah, I'm a big fan of it. I think it'll be cool. A lot of people are making fun of the football team name, but I mean, what else? I think this is a good first step of showing that the Redskins are going to take this with a level head and are going to play this smart and not rush into anything. They're just going to let it ride. We'll take into 2020 as the Washington football team, and come 2021, we're going to have a new team name, a new mascot, which I think is smart, and like I said, a good sign so far of decision making.
Yeah, I think it is as well. Like you said, we have a history of kind of jumping into things, both feet, and kind of going all in all the time. And sometimes, and it has not paid out, it has not paid off for us in the last, 30 years. But one thing that I find interesting, and this might not be true, but I was reading an article on the internet, so who knows? Like I said, it might not be true, but it makes sense. Is that they don't right now the Washington football team does not own the trademark for that name yet. A Washington football team, so you could realistically take everything they're putting out there and put them onto your own T-shirts and sell them with no fear of being, attacked or you know what I mean? Because it's not officially trademarked by them yet. So I guess it takes 3 months for that to happen. So that's
interesting. I did.
So the bootleggers are going
Not
to be
the
out
first
in
time.
bundles.
Yeah, for sure. We've seen plenty of bootleggers out at the games. We've bought a couple of shirts from those bootleggers. Not the first time that this football team has had their trademark either canceled or just not held their trademark for their team. If you remember, a couple years back, for a brief time, the name Redskins was the trademark for that was canceled because of the racial undertones of the team name. Now, one last thing before we move on about this. Again, a lot of people making fun of us, making fun of the team, the football team. LeBron James is coming out. Oh, wow, they really took a long time to think about this one when his son is literally named LeBron James Jr. Like, don't talk about going into deep thought about things. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm a big LeBron guy as you can get, but it's like, pump your brakes there, LeBron. Why don't you focus on winning a championship over there in L.A.? But I will say, a nice little spin zone. We don't need a mascot. We don't need no candy-ass dolphins. We don't need to be an eagle. Like, what? Who wants to be an eagle? A 49er? No.
Exactly.
When we come to town,
what's a giant?
You know what we're about.
What is a giant? What the heck is a giant?
Exactly. Well, I mean, when we come to town, you know what Washington's about. We are a football team, and that's what you're going to get. You're not going to get some of these little baby Bengal. Cool. Real cute. No, we are a football team. And that's what you're going to get. A bear, yeah, cool. Bear's kind of scary sometimes if it's a black bear, but or excuse me, if it's a brown bear, not a black bear. Yeah, bears are cool. But you know what? We don't need a mascot. We don't need some candy-ass little animal out there representing for us because guess what? We are a football team, and that's what you're going to get. You're going to get punched in the mouth by a football team.
Exactly. By a football team and a defensive football team that's coming for you. So we don't need we don't need anything right now, but when we do have them, we'll be back in the animal game, I think, here pretty soon. So we can't.
Yeah, probably. But just for this year, that's my spin zone.
We are football. We are a football team. But just to go off of what you said about LeBron James and all the people that are laughing at us. I mean, it's funny because I actually got the way I found out about it the next day was I got a message from somebody, and if you're watching this video, he's actually a new subscriber to my YouTube channel. So shout out to you, Mr. Wilson. But I got a message from him saying, "Hey, ha 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 ha! I have had to clown on one Redskin or one Washington fan today," and that's all he put in the message. And I was like, "What? Like, that's a weird message you haven't talked to somebody in a few years." First thing, and I'm like, "What? Is he barely like coming to the table that we lost our name or something?" So many different thoughts, and then I just commented back with question marks, and he said, "You didn't see what your name's gonna be?" And that's when I went and hit the Google machine, and got caught up on everything. I was like, "Oh man!" So. It definitely, people want to come out, like you say, and make these comments and make fun of us. But anyone that can it can't be done in this amount of time properly.
Absolutely not, yeah.
So how could you expect, anything you do this quickly? It's like, how could you, think about how long, more than probably anyone's memory that has a memory right now, they've been the Redskins. You know what I mean? So changing that of any team, it takes a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it ain't gonna happen overnight, It's definitely to have, the proper logo, the proper branding, proper marketing, all that stuff. Get the stadium all dressed up in the right stuff. They're gonna need more time than a few months, So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the way I look at it too is like if you see new franchises, get announced, like we just had one in the NHL. The MLS comes out with, it seems like 10 different franchises every year. They announce that they're going to have the team in that city, and then like 3 years later, then they announce the brand, the logo, the team name, things like that. It's not like you announce the city, then you announce the mascot, the logo, the team name, whatever. No, it takes some time. And like I said, I think this is a good sign, a good first step of the Washington football team to kind of step back a little bit and not try to just charge ahead, ignorantly or whatever you want to call it, just being dumb, which is what we've come used to seeing a lot when it comes to big decisions like this. And so I think it's a good step in the right direction by taking the step back and just being the Washington football team. And then we'll let it ride in 2021 and see what we got. Maybe a little Red Wolves action.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, like you say, made a decision. Now let's get back to football. That's what we have to worry about right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. So getting back to football, training camp here is getting ready to kick off. They're starting their, the testing and the protocols and such for making sure that players are safe. We've seen a lot of players opting out, which, if I'm in that position, I can't say one way or the other of if I would want to play or not. But if you are attacking any of these players for opting out, you're a loser. You're the biggest type of loser. If
You
you're
shower
calling
with
them
your dad.
selfish,
You
yeah,
shower with your dad.
you definitely still kiss your dad right on the lips. Shout out Tom Brady. But if you're calling these guys selfish for doing that, like think of like take a look in the mirror right there. You know what I'm saying? If you are calling somebody else selfish for putting their health first in a game where they already know that their lifespan is probably going to be cut, pretty drastically because of all the blows of the head. You can't put yourself in those shoes, and if you make that decision one way or the other. But we've had a couple guys around the league, quite a few out off the Patriots, different various guys across the league opting out. One guy that we mentioned last week that we weren't sure if he was going to report or not was DeMarcus Lawrence, because his wife is pregnant. She's due in October. He wants to make sure that he's as healthy and safe as possible. Maybe either going back and forth from training camp to home or whatever it is. He wants to make sure that she stays healthy, which I think everybody can agree that that's a smart thing to do. He did report. Now, he didn't say if he was for sure going to play. He just reported at training camp. So I guess we still have a question mark there. Another guy in our division, Marquise Goodwin, he opted out. He said, you know what, it's not worth it or worth it to me for this season. I'm gonna sit out 2020. You'll see me back in 2021. His wife and him, they have faced numerous miscarriages, and they just had a baby successfully. And so again, he wants to make sure that he's safe and healthy, make sure his family's safe and healthy. And I think we can all agree that that's kind of what's important here. If players feel like they're safe, then cool, go ahead and play. If you don't, then take a seat back, sit this one out, and we'll go get them in 2021, just like the Washington football team.
Exactly. It's you got to give again. If you're someone that's out there knocking these players, or you get paid all this money, blah blah. Then you shower with your dad. It's one of those situations where you can't be knocking a guy. You don't know the whole. Some of these guys are telling us more than they even should of the reasoning behind their decisions they're making, because you don't know if some of these guys have prior medical histories or their loved ones have prior medical history they don't want to share or whatever. So we got to respect everyone's decision to be safe right now. And just because we all want to see football, I know, and don't let that blind your decision of being a good and proper human being and a decent human being, and give these people the support and know that they're going to be out there. I mean, these guys love football. They're going to be out there as fast as and when they're safe, as fast and as hungry as the rest of them. So and just to clarify there, Marquise Goodwin, I'm sure it's due to his baby, situation, proper, congratulations for him and his wife to finally, having, a successful birth and having a child. But do you think it has anything to do with being caught out by Tyreek Hill and doesn't want to be showing up on the field this year after their little beef there?
Might be. I mean, we both know Marquise Goodwin. You worked with him at Texas, correct? Were you at Texas the same time he was?
I was at Texas the same time he was. I did not work with him directly, but he was in the same study center. But at that time, he was I think he was still training for the Olympics at that time, because he really had minimal time off of to be seeing, I guess, people like me.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, Joey used to be a mentor and tutor for the Texas football team. What years were you there? Like 2013 to 2015, or what was it?
It's a 2011 to 2011 to 2012. It was a year and a half span there. 2011 to 2012.
Okay, sweet. So he worked with guys. Case McCoy was a big one. David Ash, who was we thought was going to be the next big Texas quarterback, but unfortunately faced injuries there. Marquise Goodwin's actually here from a small town. It's called Rowlett, right outside of Dallas, about 20-30 minutes from Dallas. I coached the high school baseball team there last fall, so they have a big shrine to Marquise Goodwin. So we're very familiar with Marquise and his blazing speed. But yes, he did get called out. Well, I mean, to be fair, he actually called out Tyreek Hill because Tyreek put out the video of him racing Terrell Owens. T.O. They raced they did a 100-yard dash and they raced in the 40, and he smoked T.O. obviously, but T.O. wasn't far behind, and that guy's over 40, so shout out to him. But Marquise put out retweeted and said, "Yo, you're fast, but you are definitely not beating me with that form. He was clowning on Tyreek's form.
Uh-huh. That's it's fun to have that. I'm sure it's just friendly banter, between the two wide receivers. But they have that competition at that level, and Tyreek Hill is not going to back down from anybody, especially when he gets called out for something like his speed, which he is pride, which is he's his pride is there. He's known for his speed. So knowing that Marquise Goodwin still has that drive to want to be the best, he can put himself on that level. It's good to know that he's still in good spirits, and we should expect to see him back. But I would like to see. I mean, who would you take? Who would you think is a faster guy on the football field?
I mean, like you said, Marquise Goodwin was in the Olympics for track, but we've also seen numerous times Tyreek Hill, his videos of him when he was in high school running track, and I believe his times were pretty comparable to some of our fastest guys we've seen. So I think, I mean, if it's a straightaway, I'm going to say Marquise Goodwin just because he has the Olympic training of the form and the proper get off and things like that, and that's huge. They say you win and lose races in your get off. You win and lose them in the blocks. So I think I would take Marquise Goodwin in that race. What about you?
I would probably do the same thing, but I'm sure Tyreek Hill would want to bounce back with some type of football-related race where they either have a football in their hand or they do it on a football field. And in that situation, and you throw in any type of agility, I think he would smoke Marquise.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think you have to throw in, some kind of cut or something like that. I think Tyreek is absolutely gonna scorch him. But I think this is what they should do. Like, instead of the Pro Bowl, now that it's getting so watered down, like line up a guy. I mean, I know they would never do this because A, guys are too prideful, and B, if a guy blows an Achilles or tears,
they used to do it every year. When I was a kid, it was I believe it was the weekend between the championship game and the Super Bowl. It was either that or the week after the Super Bowl, maybe Pro Bowl weekend. But they would have the NFL's fastest man, and Darrell Green would win it, year in and year out. And that was, like you said. Now it's almost reflective of our culture. I don't want to get too
1,000%.
I don't want to get too political or anything like that. But it's almost a reflection of how we've become as a culture. Just like, who cares? Back then it's like, all right, you beat me today. You know what I mean? Now it's like everyone has an excuse for not, or making, it's because I was spraining my tendon yesterday. It's almost like anyone that watches any UFC fight or anything like that, a huge one, it always comes out a few days later that, so-and-so was feeling the mild flu that day. And it's so
he stubbed his toe in camp the day before.
Exactly. He found out his cousin failed a math test he was really studying hard for.
But we have to say that fans are in large part a big group to blame, because whoever loses, as soon as they get on Twitter, I mean, their mentions would be blowing up about, oh my God, you're slow, you got beat. And meanwhile, it's all these guys that probably run.
The memes would be out in seconds. The memes are out in seconds.
Yeah,
Twitter never loses.
And it's all gonna be guys that run like a 7.540. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing too. Like, Marquise Goodwin and Tyreek Hill could race in a 100-yard dash and run like a 10.7, and guys would be like, oh man, I thought you were faster than that. You think you're the fastest in the league, this and that. But at the same time, like you said, they used to do it. I think the contracts are just too big now. There's too much of a risk if a guy, pulls a hammy or tears a quad, something like that. It's too risky. But I agree, man. If they could do that, or, obviously they used to have the QB skills competition where guys just line up and just see how far they could chuck it. And, they had the accuracy drills and things like that. But it would be so much fun. And a lot of these Twitter fingers would go away because guys would finally be able to nut up or shut up. It's like, all right, you think you're faster than me? Well, let's go line it up then. You know what I mean? I'll see you in January. Yeah, I'll see you in January right before. Or that'd be even better. Like, if they did like what's hot in the streets right now, the versus battles on Instagram Live. If you could just call somebody out rather than lining up 4 or 5 guys, just to say like, all right, who do you call out? Tyreek and Marquise Goodwin, Stephon Diggs and Michael Thomas, something like that, or even a vertical leap challenge. I think people would still do that. Get some defensive linemen on there and do a bench press challenge, something like that. I think would be super dope, and I think would get a lot more views than the Pro Bowl itself.
Exactly, especially when you have these high profile ones. I mean, it's like you said. There's for everything that they could say they're better than them at, there could be a challenge. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's like I'm faster than you. Okay, let's have a race. I'm stronger than you. Okay, let's lift weights. I catch more balls than you. Okay, let's just have a ball machine launch these at you nonstop until you know what I'm saying. Like there's
Yeah.
everything you can do. There's a way to prove if you truly are. Can do that. And the thing is like, and we've always said it, and we've said it back. Even when our old just audio days of these things. It doesn't matter. All these guys are on an elite level. They're all, fast. They're all strong. They're all catch every ball. But being able to do it in that type of situation, when all the
When the
focus
pressure's on you.
exactly. Yeah. That's all that matters, in my opinion. That's what separates you from being, the best at what it is. And people that are shy away from doing that don't really believe they're the best.
Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely. Yeah, the guys that fold under pressure, those are the ones that have any kind of doubt in their mind. Those are the ones that rise to the occasion. They know whether it's true or not. They just know. They know they're the baddest dude there. But yeah, I think that'd be great. So that was some good little Twitter entertainment for this week. Kind of got off on a tangent there about the skills competition, but I love it. I mean, I think everyone's in agreement to it that it would be awesome to see.
I mean, and also like and who knows what's going to happen with this football season. And who knows with the current situation, what are they going to fill the fall with? I cannot picture a fall without football. I remember the one time we didn't have it on one Sunday during that strike season where they had 1 week. We had scab games for 3 weeks, but we did have 1 week with no games. And that was a terrible Sunday. And I don't want to see that Sunday ever again.
Right. And one other thing I just thought of that would be pretty funny to add if they did do the skills competition is just throw in like an average Joe just to prove like how elite these guys are. Like you have Marquise Goodwin, Tyreek Hill, and Steve from accounting line up, and he's racing too. Just an average guy, just and then he's lagging behind him. Or you have Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen chucking a football 70, 80 yards. And then you have old Tommy Boy over here that's, delivers, paper or whatever. And he's throwing it like 25-yard ducks. I mean? Like, that would just be hilarious. That'd be so funny just to see, be like, look, these guys are absolutely elite athletes.
Just to put things in, I was one of those guys. You know what I mean? In my younger 20s, I was easily one of those guys that thought that I could easily slap on some pads and get out there with my heart, which I do have, which I'm sure I have, would probably put me in worse situations that my body couldn't handle. But anyway, I remember, as you said, I worked with the Texas football team, and one time I went out with the quarterback to catch some passes, just simple passes. And I'm talking maybe for 15 minutes. And I came back inside, and my arms felt like I'd been beaten, like whipped, and I literally had bruises on both biceps. And
I remember you should send me those pictures. Yeah, like it literally, looked like somebody had beaten you with a stick all over your arms.
And that's just catching a few passes on one day. I mean, and they weren't even bullet passes. These were like long passes, And this guy was just a freshman college quarterback. You know what I mean? He's not in the prime of his strength. So so just for a Joe to be able to finally shut up the Joes of the world, and literally me, and but also it's funny as you said. I'm gonna go off on another tangent here, but it's funny because that for those that don't know, I also play Madden football, a lot, and I'm really involved in the Madden community. But they have the Madden Bowl every year where they have the Madden Championship. And there, everyone again. They had the Madden community has the same Joes that I could beat this guy. Give me in blah 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 blah. And so they had a tournament. I think it was like where the pros were playing some of the other Madden. I'm not gonna call anybody out, but popular Madden content creators. And one of those content creators who was quote unquote unbeatable, was smoked. It was like 35-7 in the first quarter, and I was like,
was that the one in Austin?
No, it wasn't in Austin. It was around the world, around the United States. It was online. It was during the COVID, but awesome. It was down to nothing quickly.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great.
Keep your mouth shut, Joe's out there. These guys are doing their best.
I'm gonna bring up something about Madden later when we get into one of the things we have planned down the road. I'm gonna ask you a question about it, and I think I know the answer, but I just need the confirmation for myself just to know.
Right.
But moving on. Speaking of guys that are dropping out of COVID, dropping out of the season because of COVID, Logan Thomas from the Washington football team, he decided to drop out, and he's gonna, or not. I shouldn't say drop out. They're opting out. They're opting out of this season. He's not gonna play this year, which again, fine by me. You got to do what you got to do to make sure you and yours are safe and healthy. But that does raise the question, one that we mentioned last week. This opens up a slot, or maybe even bumps up a guy coming in, Thaddeus Moss at tight end, might be able to get some extra reps now, or see the playing field a little bit more. He'll still be behind probably Jeremy Sprinkle, but that kind of bumps him up just a little bit to see maybe this guy can actually do it when it comes down to game time.
Exactly. I mean, it could be a blessing in disguise for Thaddeus Moss and give him the opportunity, especially with no preseason time, that he can actually get thrust into the baptism by fire and be able to play in these football games that he might not have gotten a chance to. Sorry to hear that, Logan Thomas is not going to have this opportunity. He's kind of been a backup where he's gone and never really got a chance to, which he probably was going to get in Washington with our depth at tight end. And, but, he was placed into what are they calling it? The reserve protocol or the
something like I think they're calling it like IR or something like that, like reserved IR due to COVID.
So do they come out like you say he's done for the season, so they don't come out of that, they stay in that all season, or is that
once you make the decision to opt out and you're put on that list, you're done. And then you collect a check from anywhere from like $150,000 to $350,000 depending on where you are in your career.
Oh, okay. So he'll probably be one of the 150,000 because he's not. I'm sure he's.
I think it's like time served. You know what I mean?
It's time served. It's not like started games.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay,
Like right. How long you've been in the league. So he might be creeping up to like 200, 250.
Oh yeah, he's been there. He's been a good about 5 years, 6 years. He's been around for a bit.
Yeah, something like that. He's been around. Yeah. So, but that is something that to be on the lookout for as we see more guys opt out. It's going to give some of these younger guys or guys that were on the bubble as it was. Not just with Washington football team, all around the league. It's going to give guys plenty of more opportunities and guys that might need those opportunities because we're not going to have a preseason. So I think this is going to be good for Thaddeus Moss. A lot of us Thaddeus Moss backers, 2 of them sitting here before you. So like you said, hats off to Logan Thomas. If this is a decision he felt he had to make for his family, so be it. But being football fans and being podcasters now and talking about it, we got to look to next man up.
Yeah,
and that
next
that
man
could
up
be.
And like you said, it can be Thaddeus Moss, and it could be somebody else. But the funny thing is, you say more and more of these players are going to be opting out. It's going to be interesting to see how many of these XFL players might be getting opportunities that we, as a now defunct league as it is. But now that we're sitting there, who else do we have there? It's just Jeremy Sprinkle. It was Thaddeus Moss, and I think we brought in.
I was just looking that up. So
the Hail Mary guy,
and I'll look for it.
The Hail Mary guy from Green Bay, right? Rogers, the one that caught that.
Richard Rogers. Yeah, Richard Rogers is on there. Yeah, Richard Rogers.
So those are the 3 I had in mind were Jeremy Sprinkle, Richard Rogers, and Logan Thomas being ahead of Thaddeus Moss. So I guess he'll slide right into that rotation. And I'm sure he's going to – they're going to have Jeremy Sprinkle probably keep playing the role he was as being more of a blocking and a running situation. And running situations. They're probably going to start off with having Rogers, who has the more experience, obviously, starting off as our pass-catching tight end, which I think probably would have been Logan Thomas. But Thaddeus Moss is going to get some reps in there, and who knows? So it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of pans out. And, the last name on that jersey is not going to hurt matters for what he might be capable of on the professional level. So it's going to be interesting to see how he pans out.
Yeah, definitely. I think him going undrafted will actually help him because it's not like, oh, it's Randy Moss's son. He got drafted, in the third or fourth round. This guy needs to be a stud. It's like, he performed well in college. He did well in college. He was on one of the best teams we ever seen in college. He was a big part of that offensive explosion that we saw at LSU. But he went undrafted, so it's like, that probably tempers expectations a little bit. But I'm still excited for him. I'm not gonna, say, oh, this guy's gonna be the best tight end in the league in 3 years. But I'm excited for him to see what he can possibly do for us. Even though he still has a couple prongs on that ladder that he needs to climb before he sees some serious times and serious reps. Once the football season gets kicked off.
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna be, we're just gonna have to see. He's gonna need that those real-time reps and get hit in the face by one of these all-pro defensive linemen as he's trying to get off the line to see if he can really make it at the professional level. And it's gonna be interesting to see how much these guys have worked. It's what they've done with their time, since the draft. You know what I mean? And like you said, coming undrafted, they're gonna have that extra and couple that with the expectation of the last name he has. and he's gonna, he's got some big shoes to fill, and he's gonna try, he's gonna have to bring an extra level of game to fill them, to even attempt to fill them.
Yeah, absolutely. And some good news real quick as we wrap up this topic. Any fans out there that have Alfred Morris jerseys or Ryan Terrain, I don't know if there's any guys that still have any of those lying around. Alfred Morris, more so. Thaddeus Moss actually got number 46. So you can just cross out that R and that I, and you got Moss right there. You're good to go. You're good to go, baby. Maybe you want some new Washington football team gear. But
that's an
if
interesting number choice. That's an interesting number choice for a tight end. When's the last tight end you've seen with the 40 number? Chris Cooley?
Chris Cooley. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I remember it being more of I remember like Todd Christensen, and I think Dallas Clark also had one. Yeah. There's a couple 40s throughout, but it's you don't see it a lot, nowadays.
Yeah, you're used to seeing that. You're used to seeing the 80s for sure. But yeah, 46 is. I don't know if he picked that one or if he was just assigned it. So we'll see if if that changes.
Now, Moss.
Yeah, if
you
that
gotta
changes.
Earn the 80.
Yeah, right. I mean, because you think about it, I think that's what they assigned Alfred Morris as well. So maybe those lower round guys or undrafted guys are like, here, take this number, which happens a lot.
40s. You guys are in the 40s.
So we'll see once the season starts if that's his official number or if he changes it up. So to wrap up things here,
yeah, right.
Or if I don't know if he wants 84, because then that's kind of puts a spotlight on him a little bit more. You think?
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So.
Anyway,
but
sorry.
No, absolutely. So to wrap things up, we're gonna do something a little more fun. We're probably gonna do this the next few episodes until we get some real good news. Some training camp things to talk about. We're a few months removed from the draft. Everyone's done their draft recap. So I think that's kind of out of the question now because of where we're starting. We can probably touch on a little bit. Obviously, Chase Young is the big guy that we got, the big one that we had our eyes on. We can go over some of the role players as the season gets rolling or as training camp gets rolling and we hear how guys are performing. But what we're going to do here is we put together a list of our top 5 favorite Redskins that you wouldn't consider stars. So whether it be, high contracts, if they made a couple Pro Bowls, so be it. But just guys that you wouldn't think of as being quote unquote stars. No Sean Taylors, no
Art Monks, no Darryl Greens.
Yeah, Art Monks. Yeah,
John Riggins.
RG3. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Some of the all-time greats. None of those guys. Just some everyday dudes that you just for whatever reason gravitated to. Whether it was just because of the time, that was the only good player that the Redskins had. When in retrospect, they really weren't that good, which is the case on my on my list quite a bit. So Joe, I'll actually let you hit leadoff, and you go ahead and give your 5 in any order. If you want to go 5 to 1, if you want to go 1 to 5, go for it. I didn't put mine in any. I didn't put mine in any certain order at all.
I didn't have mine in any certain order at all either. But then when you started talking about top 5, I'm like, oh, he wanted me to rank these bad boys. So
yeah, no. I
instantly started putting him in this tier thing in my head. Like, okay, let me bump them down. I'd easily be able to put number 1. I know number 1 for sure. But it's kind of musty between 2 and 5, I should say. So we'll go ahead and pretend like 5 is they're tied for 2. I guess I don't know. We'll just kind of talk about that. So 5, I would have to go on the defensive side of the ball and say Dexter Manley. If you guys don't remember who Dexter Manley is, he played defensive end for the Washington Redskins during their glory years. In the 80s and the early 90s, or I think he ended before the 90s. But they do have a documentary of Football Lab on him. He did struggle with drug addiction, throughout his career and after his career. But he was such a beast on the field. I can recall a play. This was in the playoffs, I believe, and against the Chicago Bears. And it was one of their Super Bowl seasons. It might have even been the strike year. But Doug Flutie was the quarterback for the Chicago Bears in this playoff game. And it was a false start. You know how the false start when so they kind of just kind of run a little bit. Dexter Manley went all the way around the line, picked up the quarterback, and dropped him on his head. That's how much of a false start over jump he did. And I'm pretty sure it was. I'm almost positive it had to have been Doug Flutie. I don't think anybody else he could have picked up like that and slammed directly onto his head. But if you ever have a chance to Google that, I'm sure it's out there in Google land. But Dexter Manley would have to be number 5. Number 4, I'm going to go with one of the posse members. I'm going to say Ricky Sanders.
Okay.
Gary Clark, he was a borderline, a name. I would say I would probably throw him on the list, but I think he was a little bit more known than Ricky Sanders, the third of the posse. You had Art Monk, Gary Clark, and Ricky Sanders. But he was one that, he was the deep threat. And if you watch that Super Bowl with where Doug Williams, was the MVP, those bombs were to Ricky Sanders. He was the one getting behind that defense. He had the speed on that team, and he was just so exciting to watch. And just when you knew, it's like nowadays when you see Tyreek, out there in front and Patrick Mahomes throwing, you knew once that ball left, you saw Ricky Sanders, touchdown, baby.
He gone.
He gone. You ain't gonna catch him. But that's gonna be my number 4. Jumping down to number 3, I'm gonna jump back over to the offensive side of the ball and say Clint Didier. And Clint Didier, who was a tight end during this time, and he was probably one of the earlier, really solid pass catching tight ends, exciting, explosive, because this time tight ends were still, kind of just these big, Jeremy Sprinkles at the time. They could catch the ball sometimes, but they weren't really running routes. They weren't Tony Gonzalezing. They weren't, Ozzie Newsome probably were more at that time, or at the beginning of their careers at that time. But he really set the bar for speed and being able to go out there and run deep routes as a tight end. I didn't really see any other teams having somebody like that at that time. And he was someone that, as we get to my number 1, that I really, really enjoyed, had a good connection with during a really, as I became as I was cementing the Redskins as being my team at a very young age. And jumping over to number 2, I'm going to probably jump back over to the defensive side of the ball and say Wilbur Marshall. And he was a linebacker for the '85 Chicago Bears teams. For those that do not know, he played right next to Mike Singletary and Otis Wilson. And he was the first ever, I think, free agent that left in NFL history. That free agency wasn't a thing. I
thought it was Reggie White. It wasn't Reggie White.
Reggie White might have came right after. I think Reggie White was the influx after that. You could probably look that up, but I'm almost 100% positive that Wilbur Marshall was the first ever free agent when the collective bargaining agreement changed, and we bought him from the Chicago Bears. As we buy free agents nowadays, it's not even a thing anymore. But back then, you were cradled to the grave with the same team. Changing teams was very, very rare unless you got cut or traded. So. But Wilbur Marshall was he brought over, something that we really lacked on our team, on our defense, and that was attitude. And if you think about the 91 Redskins, that attitude was led by Wilbur Marshall. And him, and then by that time you had, obviously we had talked about Dexter Manley on the one side. You had Charles Mann, who I would consider a superstar on the other side. I would, who not an average Joe. And, Darryl Green in the secondary. Our defense was legit that year. Everyone wants to talk about Mark Rippon in the offense, but Wilbur Marshall was a force to be reckoned with. And now, my number 1. Are you still researching that Wilbur Marshall? Your audio is off. Your audio is off. I lost you. Your audio. You're muted yourself. You're muted.
I'm not saying that I am.
Now I hear you.
Now
I hear you.
Okay.
There you
we're
go.
good?
There you go.
Okay. Yeah. My levels. Okay. My levels were good. But yeah. So I'm looking it up right now, and there's different iterations of what free agency were and weren't. And it's funny when I searched it, the first thing it says the history of free agency. It's a picture of Reggie White. But I mean,
really?
I believe you on that, because like I said, there's a bunch of different iterations of what free agency was and wasn't. So we'll go with what you said. I trust you.
But that's something it's one of those things you just kind of hold on to for some. And I don't think I remember it wrong for any other reason. But anyway, at that time, he was a great. Again, he brought attitude to our defense. At that time, we were strictly, our defense was good, but it made our defense. I mean, we were shutting teams out left and right. If you go look at our 91 Skins, we were shutting teams out left and right. And and Ryan's like, I wasn't born yet. I was kind of in the womb during this. I was hearing you scream through the womb indirectly. But anyway, the number 1, my favorite Redskin, I should say, of all time that was not a star is Jay Schrader. Yeah. And for one certain reason, I remember vividly watching that Monday Night Football game. I think I was in 3rd grade when Joe Theismann got his leg broken. And I was, a huge Joe Theismann, John Riggins fan at that time. That's really becoming a Redskin fan at a really young age, like we talked about. And I was crying, literally crying when he broke his leg. They took him off the field, and my dad was kind of explaining to me. I was like, "Well, is he coming back?" You know, like after he's like, "No, he ain't coming."
Boy, did you see that leg?
I didn't comprehend it at that age, what any of it really meant. I remember him saying like, "He'll probably never play football again," and I was like, "What?" Like it made zero, and he was right. And but it was against the Giants, and obviously Lawrence Taylor. And but coming off the bench was a no-name man who had a name that looked like the only name that I knew that looked similar to him was Ricky Schroeder from Silver Spoons at the time. So I thought we have Jay Schroeder coming out here, or Schroeder from like Charlie Brown. That's who I thought. I thought it was Schroeder when he first came out. But then I think even the commentators might have called him Schroeder at the time. But as obviously he became known, and eventually I think he ended up having a pretty good stint with the Redskins and the Raiders. But he would not consider a superstar. But he was my favorite quarterback at that time. And I thought he was, he had a connection with that Clint Didier who I talked earlier, that they were just ripping up the field. And they were so close to beating that 15-1 Giants team that in the championship game the year that Phil Simms won his Super Bowl. But they were against the championship game, and it was Jay Schrader was leading that, and Clint Didier was a great year. Anyway, that's my list.
That's a strong list. I'll tell you what. If you lined up your list to my list, like man to man, your list kicks my list's ass, like hands down, no doubt about it. Probably because of the era that I grew up in watching the Redskins. You know what I mean? There just wasn't that strong roster ever of guys, and so some of the Redskins that I gravitated towards were good players. But I will say that a lot of it was shaped by Madden, by the game Madden. And so I'll lead off with my first two. My first one, a defensive tackle, Philip Daniels. I used to love using him. I would use him all the time when I played defense on Madden. I just changed to him and try to sack the quarterback over and over and over again. Philip Daniels, they think he played like 04 to like 2010 or something with the Redskins. And so those 04, 05, 06 seasons, I'm like 12, 13, whatever, and so I just wanted to use him every single time, and so that was one of the guys that I went to, and he's always one of the higher rated Redskins too, so that's just what I did. The next guy, same deal, Andre Carter, defensive end for the Redskins for like 10 years. He was a big time Redskin, former Cowboy that came over to the Redskins, but he was a defensive end. I just line up as a defensive end and try to sack the quarterback. So this is where my Madden question comes in. Is that the telltale sign of a noob Madden player, is if they control somebody on the defensive line? Because I've noticed watching you and watching other Twitch streams and Madden Bowl, now the move is to either control a linebacker or control a corner or the safety and try to go to whoever's open. So is that how you know you're playing like a scrub, is if they just control a defensive lineman?
Oh yeah, they definitely are. You're definitely gonna get called out. You're a D-line user.
That's me.
But
I'm a D-line user. Come
get it. The funny thing is, though, you bring that up, and I can use D-line users, but I'll be putting somebody on the line like Julius Peppers, who has speed like a middle linebacker. That way, it really throws the defense off, and you have an extra linebacker out there to speak. But funny thing you say that they kind of did change it this year, where they're making D-line users are going to be a thing again. So the noobs are not going to be exposed anymore. Everyone's going to be a D-line user this year. I guess it's going to be.
Let's go.
So you're ready to come. The time is right for you to come back, Ryan. It's time.
Boom. Yeah, I'm put me back in, coach. Yeah, I'm a big time D-line user. Put me on that. I get the right defensive end. Put him out about 2 spaces, and then poof, just bull rush every single time.
Every time.
That's all I do. That's my move on defense. And if somebody's open, I was probably playing like cover 4 defense anyway. So if they got open, that's it. That's just what I do. I either blitz my balls off or play cover 4 or cover 2 sink. That's all I go to. Those are my 3 plays that I play on defense in Madden. So that's what I got.
All right. Those will take you far nowadays. I'll tell you what. Like you said, those cheesy blitzes, they work.
Yeah, no, that's what I do. Free fire blitz all day. My next one goes to again kind of the early years, my formative years as a Redskins fan. The guy that was probably the best offensive weapon at the time in the 99, 2000, 2001 years. That's Stephen Davis, the running back, big number 48. I remember just watching him, thinking he was like the best running back in the league. I'm 8, 9 years old, I don't know. and watching Steven Davis, I'm like, man, this guy's awesome. This guy's so amazing. And then you get on Madden, he's ranked like a 79. I'm like, how is he only a 79? This guy is the best running back in the league. How is he? How are any of these dudes better than him? But yeah, Steven Davis, that was just like I always liked him. He left and went to Carolina. I thought my heart was broken. I was like, how are we ever gonna live without Steven Davis? I think he played like 2 more years and that was it. But yeah, Steven Davis was a big guy in my formative years as a Redskins fan.
When you said the name Steven Davis, all I think about is him getting his ass whooped by Michael Westbrook in practice. Do you remember that?
yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
He was stomping Steven Davis on the ground when he was.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. I forgot about that for a minute. Damn, maybe I should take that off my list then, because I can't have no punk ass bitches on my list.
I was gonna say when you brought up I wonder why he had a 79 rating. I was like, because no man in his good right mind was gonna give him above an 80 when he's getting his ass whooped like that on camera.
His toughness was a 2.
His toughness was 2. Yeah, everything else was like in the 80s, but his toughness as a 2 brought him right down to a 79.
My next one is going to be John Jansen, offensive tackle for the Redskins for a long time. He was another like 10 or 11 year guy. Same thing here. I mean, like I said, I watched a ton of football. I watched the Redskins all the time. But growing up, I just knew what they were ranked on Madden. You know what I mean? I had every year Madden every single year. He was always like a 90, 91, 92. He was always the highest ranked Redskin as well. You know, one of the higher ranked ones, because everyone else is like in the 80s or 70s, but he was always ranked really high. So I was like, oh man, John Jansen, he's got to be great. He's awesome. And he was pretty good. He was pretty good for a long time for the Redskins. Solid. Yeah. So, he's another guy that I put on my list. And the last one, it came down to 2 guys. There's a ton more that I could put on this list, but when I was trying to narrow it down to just 5, there's 2 guys, same position, but I went with this one instead of the other, and I'm going with Mike Sellers, fullback. Yeah, so just kind of one of those guys that just was like, he was around a lot, played a lot for the Redskins. Gritty, just like he was like a fullback, you know what I mean? Like if you were coming down the line, like he would lay you out. And so it was down to him or Daryl Young, and I went with Mike Sellers. I like Mike Sellers a little bit more, I think. And so that was just one of those things. Again, formative years. Even though that was kind of later in life, I still liked, was a big fan of Mike Sellers. As a Redskin, and so that's what my list is. I'm sure I'm gonna get flamed. Please feel free if we left somebody off, mention them down in the comments. But hey, this is my 5. You got to respect it. You know what I mean? It's just like when you're playing pickup hoops. Respect my foul call. You got to respect my list.
Yeah, and you see that name, Larry's Mike Sellers out, and who knew it came to mind? I almost said his name right there was Larry Centers, who also played the same position fullback with us, and again came over from another team just like Sellers. And played with his final years with us, and really, like you said, one of those rugged fullback types. But I remember Mike Sellers. I think he was there. Was he there in 2012?
I think he was.
Yeah, he was there. I think he was there for that that championship game where we were there in Washington with RG3. Yeah. So I think he had a chance to be there for a formidable year for us. So.
For sure.
Yeah. So
for sure, no
shout
doubt.
out to you, Mike Sellers.
Shout out wherever you are, wherever you might be. But yeah, so that's my top 5. Like I said, your top 5 kicks the shit out of my 5. Even more so because it had Steven Davis on there. Like now that you mentioned that, like I'm really starting to think of like, man, I should have put somebody else on there.
Should have put Michael Westbrook on it. The guy kicked his ass.
Yeah, right. Well, see, I almost did, but I was like, well, maybe he could be considered like, I don't know, he was like a pretty big deal for the Redskins there for a minute. Considered a quote unquote star, because I almost did put him on there.
Two things come to my mind when him kicking Steven Davis's ass, and then him getting that 15-yard penalty on Monday Night Football when we were in field goal range and putting us out of field goal range in the final couple of minutes to lose to the Giants. Those are the 2 things that come to my head with Michael Westbrook. So he wouldn't have made my list at all.
Like I said, there's a ton other guys, but like I literally I didn't do any research. Like I just like the first 5 Redskins I could think of that I remember liking, I put down. And he was one of them. He was one of them. Let's see. I'm gonna go. You know who? I'm not gonna do that. Maybe I might do that. Liddell Betts. You remember Liddell Betts?
Another one of those just gritty Redskins that would get down there. And it might have been Betts that was there, not Sellers, in 2012. I think he's a little bit more. What's his years? Does it have his years right there?
Let's see. Yeah, I'm pulling it up right here. He played. No, he wasn't. He was 02 to 09.
Okay, so they probably was sellers. But yeah, Liddell Betts was another one of those solid. Kelvin Bryant. I don't know if you remember that name sticks out to you, but he was like one of the early third down back types that could run the ball really well. He was like he could catch the ball well. He was on the Super Bowl team with Doug Williams, but he was he came over from the USFL. He was actually Jim Kelly's running back in the USFL. But Kelvin Bryant.
You know who I'm gonna replace? This is my definitive fifth. This is my definitive fifth. And he was only there like 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. Anthony Armstrong. Do you remember him?
Yeah, the punt returner.
The punt returner. He was wide receiver. No, you're thinking of Brandon Banks.
Oh yeah, Brandon Banks. Okay, yeah.
You're thinking of Brandon Banks, yeah. the little guy from Kansas State who he's actually playing in the Canadian Football League, doing really well, and he just opted out of playing in the Canadian Football League, and he was catching shit on Twitter, which again, take a look in the mirror, guys. But yeah, Anthony Armstrong, and it's going to be for two reasons. I mean, he was pretty good for, like, you know, in terms for the Redskins. It was him, Santana Moss, and I don't think he was there with Antoine Randall L. Maybe he was, because it was just three burners that were all under 6 foot. It might have been Antoine Randall L. while he was there. Mm-hmm. But one of our first Redskins games that we were there, he's from here. He lives here in Texas, here in Dallas, the Dallas area too. We had our usual sign. It's our sign we carry every game. It's the Cowboy Star with the Redskins arrow through it. Which, now that I think about it, we might have to retire that.
It's done. We can't have any kind of Native American. Now
R.I.P.
No, I guess it's just going to be the wolf peeing on the star. I guess that's the best we're going to have.
There you go. That's all we're going to have. Oh my goodness. Wow. That you could have just shot an arrow through my heart thinking about that, because we were on TV literally all the time. Bleacher Report.
There's a country song coming about the name change. You shot an arrow through my heart.
There you go. Yeah. So.
Yes, dang, but yes, Anthony Armstrong.
But yeah, sorry. Yeah. But so we had that sign, the arrow through the star, and he saw us, points at us, and then does like this bow and arrow thing right through it. And I thought that was super cool. And then secondly, he's on Twitter. I follow him. I followed him for a long time. And when I was getting married, he was like, "Hey, it's wedding season. Somebody invite me to their wedding and I'll come through." And I just jokingly replied and was like, "Hey, what are you doing August 25th?" And he was like, "Let me know, I'll pull up," or something like that. I didn't follow up with it, which maybe I should have, to see if he would have actually came. But I thought that was pretty funny that he was like, "Hey, you know, let me know, I'll be there." And I actually had those Redskin cookies. I don't know if you remember.
Yes,
there were cookies. That would have been like awesome.
It would have been. And it's like you said, maybe he didn't have nothing to do. You know, he's thinking of rolled up. He'd have been out there saying, "Maybe I can find me some tail at this wedding. Who knows?"
maybe. But yeah, so that's what I'm gonna put on. That's what I'm gonna put as number 5 on my
Goodbye, Stephen Davis. Kick your ass to the curb. Same way Michael Westbrook.
I'm kicking Stephen Davis's ass out just like Michael Westbrook did. Yep.
Oh man, we got to get that clip, and that way that can be a regular clip on our show whenever we want to talk about getting like disgraced or something. We're just gonna I'll trigger that clip. We'll have
perfect.
that'll become a classic.
We'll have to use that. D'Angelo Hall blowing his Achilles out against DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh yeah, that could be a.
R.I.P.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say when D'Angelo Hall got into what's his name's face, the coach of the Falcons. You remember that when they get?
Yeah.
That's what I thought you were gonna talk about right there.
No, when DeAndre Hopkins literally broke his ankle and made him tear his Achilles. Yeah.
No, but I think we're definitely gonna have a. I was gonna say we definitely gotta have the Alex Smith, the Joe Theismann break with extra loud sounds. No, we would never do that to those guys. We would never do that. Maybe to Joe Theismann. I might do it to Joe Theismann, but I wouldn't do it to Alex Smith.
Joe Theismann kind of sucks. I'll be honest.
Joe Theismann, I'm sorry if you watched this, but you kind of turned into a fucking dick over these years. You know, I used to like you.
Big time.
You know, and I remember, you know, the funny thing is Joe Theismann, will go off on a little tangent here. I remember when he was like, it was like one of the first, it's like when I learned what the word affair meant as a kid. Like he was having an affair on his wife with Kathy Gifford or Kathy, I think it was Kathy
Lee Gifford.
I think it eventually became Kathy Lee Gifford, yeah, but I think that's who it was, or someone like, I'm sorry, Kathy Lee Gifford, if it wasn't you, but I remember him having an affair like on his wife when I was a kid, and I was like, remember that being a story, and I was like, what does that affair mean? Like, you know, it sounded like affair to me, like a good thing, and
right.
My mom told me no, he he's sleeping with somebody else's. Well, and I was still like sleeping, and I still didn't know what sex meant either. So I was like, but I knew he cheated on his wife or whatever. So
he was up to no good.
It was no good, but I defended you, and I still liked you back then. But guess what? Nowadays, I don't like you. I don't like you.
Not no mo. Not no mo.
Not no mo, Joe. You out, Joe. Even though we share a name, that's where the line ends.
That's where the line ends, and that's where this show ends. Another good week of Allies Behind Enemy Lines. A lot of good stuff. Obviously, like I said, with the new rebrand, looks clean, looks crisp. Kind of changing it up with the number on the helmet. I wouldn't hate if we never went away with it. If we just kept the number on the helmet. You know what I mean? Like maybe the logo on one side and the number on the other. I think that'd be kind of dope. Like you said, nobody else in the NFL is doing it. It's pretty clean. It's a sweet look. The Chargers did it for one of their throwbacks. They did it inside the lightning bolt. So I mean, I wouldn't hate if we kept that around. I definitely like the font.
It's like what other player can you get and actually have a signature helmet? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or other team. Like true. This is Dwayne Haskins' helmet. You know why? Because it's got 7 on it. You know what I mean? It's not just a little sticker on the back. It's the one on the side.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you can have signature Washington helmets.
That's true. That's a great point. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that'll do it for us for this week. We'll be back at it next week. Hopefully we stay out of the news for anything bad. This week we did that. So, 1 week we'll have to have a tally. Like, it's been X amount of days since the Redskins have been negatively mentioned in the news. Right now we're sitting at a week. So we're good, baby. We're sitting pretty. Any parting words for us, Joe?
Well, you can't see because you're not seeing my audio or my video right now, but I have my my old Redskin coffee mug here, and it's got a piece of tape over it that says Washington as we start the transformation process. And I have my signature flag in the background is now turned upside down, so it's an upside down Washington flag. I guess, does that signify mourning, or I forget what the upside down flag signifies, like hate, or what is it? I don't know. What am I doing?
I don't know.
I'm just like, it's in mourning. It's kind of going away. It's kind of going down. So it's back there down. That's all I'm going to say.
R.I.P. R.I.P.
R.I.P. Redskins.
Yep. All right. Well, like I said, that'll do it for us this week. We'll catch you next week. Please like, rate, subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your Redskins fans, tell your Cowboy friends that we'll probably talk some good shit about the Cowboys every now and then, the Giants too, the Eagles, all that good stuff. But since we are your allies,
we'll eventually talk shit about everybody. We'll eventually talk shit about it. If you listen long enough, we'll talk shit about everybody.
Facts. That's 100% correct. We will talk shit about you, whether you just got done beating us 42-0 or not. We will still talk shit about you. You can bet your bottom dollar.
Joe Theismann, motherfucker. Even if your name's Joe Theismann, bitch.
Even if you snapped your leg at midfield, we will dance on your grave, Joe Theismann.
Exactly.
We'll dance on it.
We will dance on your fibula. Just kidding.
All right. Well, until next week, again, we are your allies behind enemy lines. Y'all take care.
Bye-bye, guys.